My name is Oscar Sobakti, a news and business presenter at TRT World. Hello, welcome, and hoş geldiniz. We'll now be taking the ADF session further with this discussion called Challenges and Opportunities for Regional Cooperation in the South Caucasus. The South Caucasus faces a historic opportunity for stability following recent developments, including the advancements in the peace process between Azerbaijan and Armenia and the ongoing normalization efforts between Turkey and Armenia. These efforts, combined with Georgia's increasing role in regional cooperation, present significant prospects for the region's future. Now, this panel will examine the dynamics of the South Caucasus, exploring both the opportunities and obstacles for regional cooperation and the path towards sustainable and inclusive development in a fragmented world. I now have the distinguished honor of introducing our honorable guests. Can we please make welcome Ararat Mirzoyan, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia. Next, we have Ceyhun Bayramov, who's the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Azerbaijan. And please make welcome Marko Bochorashvili, who's the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia. And thank you all for being with us today. I know you're extremely busy people, so if I can get straight into it. Ceyhun Bayramov, if I could begin with you. 2 wars were fought for control of Azerbaijan's Armenian-populated region of Karabakh. The first took place, as we know, at the end of the Soviet Union, and the second took place in 2020, before Azerbaijan took control of its territory in September 2023. Last month, both Baku and Yerevan agreed on a peace deal, which is ready for signing. Tell us, what's standing in the way of the agreement being finalized so that it can be implemented?
Thank you. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be a part of Antalya Diplomacy Forum. So I had a chance to participate in all forums, and we're very pleased and happy with the ever-growing role of Antalya Diplomacy Forum, and this becomes truly the center of discussions about the most pressing issues in the global agenda. And I would like, first of all, to thank my esteemed colleague and brother, Minister Hakan Fidan, for the invitation, and congratulate him and his team for the excellent organization of the forum. So back to your question, so you are absolutely right that as a result of the end of the armed conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan in the region in South Caucasus, the historical opportunities for normalization appeared. And right after the end of the 44 days patriotic war and liberation of Azerbaijani previously occupied territories, shortly after this, Azerbaijan suggested to Armenia to start the normalization process and start talking about the peace agreement. So it was Azerbaijani initiative back in 2021 at the beginning. In February 2022, Azerbaijan proposed 5 basic principles for the future peace agreement. And starting from October 2022, we start physical, let's say, engagement with the Armenian side, many rounds of negotiations, exchange of documents in respect of the draft text. And as you correctly mentioned, last month, we, 2 parties, after almost 2.5 years, concluded the text of the peace agreement, which we consider extremely important development and serious milestone. About the further steps which are necessary in order to be implemented for the full finalization of this process, a signing of the peace agreement. So this is again long-standing and consistent position of the Republic of Azerbaijan, which is our counterparts, our partners in Armenia are well aware. This is, first of all, to dissolve the obsolete and dysfunctional Minsk process-related institutions, better known to the public as a Minsk group, but in reality this is a bit wider. And of course, at the same time, to make necessary changes to Armenian constitution in order to eliminate territorial claims to Azerbaijan. So we believe that with these necessary steps, there will be no additional obstacles in the way of finalization and signing of the agreement on establishment of peace and interstate relation between two countries.
Ararat Mirzoyan, after Azerbaijan and Armenia successfully wrapped up peace talks last month, your foreign ministry issued a statement saying that the peace agreement is ready for signing. You've just heard from your Azerbaijani counterpart some of the concerns that Baku has before signing this deal. Is Yerevan willing to address those concerns? And what issues do you have with the deal, if any?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I would also join my colleague in expressing appreciation to the organizers of this fantastic diplomatic forum. Coming to your question, it's a matter of an approach. I don't think that digging too deep into the past would be constructive right now and would help all of us to come to a constructive and beneficial for everybody solutions. I would rather prefer to focus on the present and on the future, because if we focus on the obstacles, if we focus on the issues of history, if we start discussing which territory belonged to whom, 100 years ago, or who killed more people of the other nationality, I think we would jointly come to another conflict. Meanwhile, the desire of the government of the Republic of Armenia and the people of Armenia, at least from our side, is to build lasting peace in our region, including, and first of all, we are discussing the relations and normalization with Azerbaijan. You are completely right. We succeeded, after long negotiations, we succeeded to agree over the text of draft peace agreement. And we also suggested to immediately start consultations on aiming to define the venue and the time, the data for signing the peace agreement. Is this peace agreement, is the agreed text answering to all possible questions? Of course not. And I believe there is no single agreement in the world that answers to all possible questions and covers all possible issues. This is a basis. This is a start of relations. And of course, there are many remaining issues, and we can continue our discussion regarding all issues. We can continue exploring new possibilities of cooperation, because it's just a start. And it's important to note that in this agreed text of the agreement, we have a provision which says that we are establishing a bilateral commission to discuss all the other issues, including the, issues that may rise regarding the interpretation of this or that provision of the agreement, discussion of many other possible issues. And again, it's a matter of a decision, it's a matter of an approach. What are we as ministers of foreign affairs during this panel discussion suggest to our societies? What are we as countries suggest to the region, to the world? Is that digging again into the past or building a joint future and prosperity for our citizens. So we are confident that we have all the preconditions, positive preconditions, to sign this agreement, to start a new stage of dialogue, a new level, or if I may, an open new era of relations, of peaceful relations and prosperity in South Caucasus and beyond, in larger region. So this is our approach. Minister Bayramov spoke about very concrete conditions or preconditions. You know, the Minsk structures. We have expressed several times our readiness to initiate the process of dissolution of Minsk structures. These structures can be dissolved when there is no conflict. So this is an interesting question. Do we have a conflict now or not? On the ground, no. We don't have a de facto conflict. On the papers, we don't have an agreement on establishment of peace and interstate relations signed and ratified. So we can continue to philosophize on this issue, but the solution for us, at least for us, is obvious. We should sign the agreement, put an end to this conflict in an institutional way, dissolve on the very same day, if you want. In the same, 10 minutes. One document after the other. And I'm not even saying which document should be the first. Let's sign the peace treaty. Let's sign a joint application to OSCE member states or the Secretariat about the dissolution. Let's establish the bilateral commission, which I was talking about, and start discussion of all possible questions. Minister Bayramov spoke also about the constitution of Armenia. Okay, if you want, I can say, we do have a concern regarding the constitution of Republic of Azerbaijan, and we are not saying this just to have the in the principle of mirroring the issues. We are not saying this to have an equal condition or concern. I can explain. The Constitution of Republic of Armenia makes a reference to the Act of Independence, the document, in which this Republic of Azerbaijan declares itself to be the successor of First Azerbaijani Republic. And we all know that the First Azerbaijani Republic declared its sovereignty over much larger territories than today's Azerbaijani Republic, including, around or more than 60% of current sovereign Armenian territories. So again, it's a matter of approach. From which end are we beginning? Are we going to have all answers to all possible questions and only then establish relations, or we are building on what we already have accomplished? Because, we have an unprecedented situation. Armenia and Azerbaijan, again, please focus on this issue. Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed on a text of an agreement between them, acknowledging each other's territorial integrity within borders which existed by the time, at the moment of the dissolution of Soviet Union. This sentence answers to so many questions and so many concerns. Are we going to build on this, or we are going to undermine this very tangible historic accomplishment and then bring another issue to the table of negotiations, another issue? It could become a never-ending process. Are we focusing on future or on the past? This is the conclusion.
So, Minister Mirzoyan, it sounds like you want the agreement to be signed and the issues to be ironed out at a later date. But we heard Minister Bayramov mention that constitutional change that you just addressed, in which the Armenian constitution currently states that Karabakh is a part of Armenia. Do you acknowledge that that might be a concern for Baku?
Thank you very much for this issue. So I am officially saying, and our constitution is a public document, you can check. and correct me if I'm mistaken, but I assure you I'm not mistaken, there is nothing in the Constitution of Republic of Armenia saying that Karabakh is part of Armenia. There is nothing. In the contrary, I said that we have our own concerns regarding the Azerbaijani constitution. But again, why aren't we raising this issue continuously on and on? Because in the very same text of agreement, we have a specific provision, not only recognizing several provisions. One recognizes our respective territorial integrities in a way which is fully acceptable for you and for us as well, because we agreed on that. And also we have a provision saying that none of the parties can refer to their internal legislations in order to justify failure of implementation of this agreement. I mean, it's really covered. And the shortest way to answer to all questions, cover all possible obstacles, concerns, is signing and ratification of this agreement.
Okay, Mr. Bayramov, you've just heard the response there from your Armenian counterpart. Do you accept that? Might you consider signing the agreement and sorting out the issues that either side may have at a later date?
Actually, there are two fundamental problems with what Minister Mirzayan mentioned. First of all, Minister Mirzayan said that in Armenian constitution there is no reference to the territory of Azerbaijan. And just I want to clarify, because I don't want to play with words, but there is an act of independence of the Republic of Armenia, which says about reunification of part of the territory of Azerbaijan, de jure and de facto, with the Republic of Armenia. And the Armenian constitution makes a reference to the act of independence. And based on these, let's say, pieces of legislation, I mean the fundamental norms of the Armenian legislation, which is the constitution, many dozens of different lower tier normative legal acts, decision has been adopted over the last 30 years, confirming the same narrative. Talking about the specifics of the peace agreement. In reality, yes, peace agreement addresses many issues, but again, this is also a well-known fact that no matter what you include in the peace agreement, your peace agreement, being the part of your international obligation, will prevail over your domestic legislation, but not constitution or any other act adopted by referendum. Which means that if we just, trying to simplify the situation, will only, focus on a peace agreement without resolving the situation with constitution, it means that from day one, peace agreement will be null and void, because it will be contradictory to the main law of the country, which is not the case. Another thing, what Azerbaijan is saying, this is from legal standpoint. From, let's say, strategical point of view, from political point of view, this is also important, taking into consideration that it was always, let's say, the narrative, it was the fundament of Armenian legislation. This is also important just to understand the approach and position of Armenian people, Armenian public in respect of this. How they consider this, whether this, the population is ready to eliminate territorial claims to its neighbors or not. Then another important element from what Azerbaijan is saying, and by the way, so this is not some new, let's say, precondition from Azerbaijani side. We are raising this issue for the period of more than 2 years. In May 2023, during one of our meetings in United States, we submitted official document to this extent to our Armenian counterparts, but verbally we discussed this even before, just, for you. We did, two stuff in parallel, peace agreement talks and raising this issue. Another important element, so what we are saying, this is not something extraordinary in the modern history of other countries. Even if we look to the European continent, there are a number of cases when, because of these or similar problem, having some problems with the neighboring countries, the countries actually went to the referendum and made the changes in their constitution. So there is nothing extraordinary or, let's say, maximalistic from Azerbaijani, position. And then back to the last argument from Minister Mirzayan's statement about, let's say, similar concerns of the Armenian side about Azerbaijani constitutions. First of all, it does not represent the reality. Azerbaijani constitution does not contain any geographical name or territory of the modern Republic of Armenia. And I think our Armenian counterparts, they are very well aware, because otherwise they would definitely raise this issue, because the legal system of Armenia, legal system of Azerbaijan, legal system of Turkey and all these countries, this is more or less the same. You cannot enter into international agreements if they are contradictory to the constitution of the country. So I don't believe that our Armenian counterparts, they are sincerely believe that Azerbaijani constitution contains territorial claim to Armenia, and at the same time they never raised this before, and they just ignore this fact, because this is really strange. Because if you believe that the constitution of the other country has a territorial claim to your country, then you only pretend that you are signing, let's say, peace agreement which will handle this situation, because it will be open. Because no international agreement can change or remain the obstacle which is part of your constitution.
So, Minister Mirzoyan, before I get George's perspective on this, is your government willing to consider possible changes to the constitution, even though it might be domestically unpopular?
Once again, thank you for your for this opportunity to reply to my colleague's remark, because I thought you would immediately ask a question to our distinguished Georgian colleague, and I'm very sorry, Maka, but I must reply. So, if we go into legal, or if you want legalistic details, then I will now give a very short explanation. Legally, indeed, there is a reference in our preambular part of our constitution, but there is a reference to our Act of Declaration of Independence. No, but legally, only those provisions of our Declaration of Independence have legal significance and are imperative, only those that are literally quoted in the text in the body of Constitution. That sentence about which our colleagues from Azerbaijan have concerns is not quoted in our Constitution. There is only a general reference to the Declaration of Independence, saying that based on Declaration of Independence, the people of Armenia declares this, and then the body of Constitution. So, again, legally, in the world, there is only one body that has the right to interpret, to comment our Constitution, and it is the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Armenia. And last September, our Constitutional Court gave a conclusion regarding another document which was signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the regulation of joint works of respective border commissions on delimitation, basically. And in this regulation, it is mentioned that the delimitation is taking place on the basis of Almaty Declaration, which says the same, more or less the same sentence, that our borders are the same borders that existed between us as Soviet Socialist republics at the time of dissolution of Soviet Union. So once, last September, our Constitutional Court said, and it is a public document, that this principle, the principle of borders, which also means that we do not have territorial claims beyond that borders, this principle is fully complying to our Constitution, and that's it. So now, if we sign this treaty, this again, within the process of ratification, this agreement will go to the Constitutional Court. If our Constitutional Court once again says that this document complies with our Constitution, another proof that the issue is covered, addressed, there is no obstacle. If theoretically our constitutional court will say something else, that would be another situation. We will come back to you and we will discuss other possibilities. That's it. But again, you know, it's a matter of political will. It's a matter of orientation. It's a matter of focusing the subject on which we are focusing. Are we building peace? Are we going to use the opportunities, or are we going to close the process having the concerns? If we do have will to use the opportunities, we will find a way. By the way, and again, yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, Malka, I was a little bit longer than my...
This would be a great time to get Georgia's perspective now, because it does sound like we are at a bit of an impasse, even though a peace deal was agreed last month. Marka Bochorisvili, Georgia has expressed interest in playing a mediating role in the region. How can Georgia facilitate dialogue and cooperation among South Caucasus countries? And what specific initiatives or projects is Georgia promoting to enhance regional integration?
It is my privilege to be here and to participate to Antalya Diplomacy Forum, and that's great honor to be here together with my dear colleagues from Azerbaijan and Armenia. Well, for Georgia, peaceful and secure South Caucasus is an important priority. We do acknowledge that our region has huge potential, and in order to fully exploit that potential, we do need sustainable peace and long-lasting peace in our region. So that's why we welcome, first of all, the agreement on peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. This is, I do believe, that big achievement. And we also need to highlight that traditionally exceptional good relationship that Georgia enjoys to have with both neighbors, Armenia and Azerbaijan. With Azerbaijan, for decades, we have a strategic partnership based on that friendship and very good cooperation. And this is a very strong asset that we have in region. With Armenia, again, we enjoyed traditionally very good relationship, which was upgraded recently to strategic partnership. And this is also a very big asset that Georgia has in this situation. And we have sincere interest to promote peace and stability in our region. And that's why we are always saying, and I will repeat it here, that Georgia is the place where both Armenia and Azerbaijan can rely on and can feel that we will provide all possible means to facilitate dialogue in our region, to facilitate cooperation in our region. As I mentioned from the beginning, South Caucasus has huge potential regionally to promote different partnerships and to contribute to wider peace, security, stability, economic cooperations. And we need to cooperate among ourselves to find common topics, to find common issues. That is kind of our daily life in our region, and to start talking about that. And that is, I think, essential that we can do at this stage. And again, Tbilisi is always ready, and I will repeat it here, on any level, on any topic, to start and facilitate conversation. I will not start listing of the issues that we can discuss. There are plenty of things that we need to cooperate, we need to discuss among ourselves, and I do believe that first thing, that political will and intention from both sides that exists, and we do see that that exists, is essential to promote that dialogue between South Caucasus countries. I would not exclude Georgia, and I would not put Georgia only as a kind of country that is in the middle, that is talking to Armenia or talking to Azerbaijan and trying to play that only mediating role. This is our life as well, and we consider that we are also part of this process on an equal kind of level, because this is our common interest to promote peace, security, stability, and good cooperation in our region.
Thank you, Minister. At this point, I'd like to hand the floor over to our responder from the floor, Nigar Göksel. She's the Turkey Director at the International Crisis Group. Nigar, a lot to digest there. Please give us your thoughts. There we go. Yes. Oh, one moment. Sorry.
It's a great privilege to follow the distinguished ministers on this very significant platform. I see my role today as weaving together some of the threads that they've laid out, my takeaways, and adding some reflections from the peace and security debates about this issue that are taking place elsewhere. So let me begin by celebrating and congratulating the ministers of Azerbaijan and Armenia for agreeing on the peace deal text. I know that that took an enormous amount of intellectual effort as well as political leadership. And I think it's particularly noteworthy that it happened without external brokering, so that it was a bilateral process. And I think this also sort of points to the regional ownership factor that the Turkish diplomacy has been underlining. I'd also like to take note of Azerbaijan's long-time investment into proactively pursuing the connectivity projects in the region, starting from Baku-Ceyhan and now evolving into the Middle Corridor. Frankly, I think Baku gets little acknowledgement from the actors that are benefiting from its focus on this for a long time. I think the prevailing rationale today is that folding Armenia into this web of infrastructure and opportunity can create some immunity, not only for Armenia, but for all of us, in terms of guarding against the potential spoilers of regional stability. And those spoilers can come from inside, and they can come from outside, actors that would want to exploit the vulnerability. And I think I hear a very common interest, both on the panel and elsewhere, that regional integration is in everybody's interest. I think it's a matter of sequencing, as we've heard today, what comes first and what comes next, and that is also a matter of trust. But before I go a little bit deeper into that, I'd like to say a few words about the geostrategic context, because that hasn't been mentioned much, and I think it is actually one of the dimensions that adds a time sensitivity to this process being concluded. We don't know how the US-Russia alignment is going to evolve. We don't know how the Israel-Iran showdown is going to play out. We see Europe is trying to adapt to a new geopolitical landscape and is exploring ways to converge with Turkey, but we don't know how that's going to play out either. So I think there's a sense that the Caucasus region is going to feel the winds of these unpredictable changes, and we should be prepared for that by already having consolidated amongst ourselves as the Caucasus and its neighbors. Now to pass on to the more sensitive topics that have been discussed. I'm aware that Baku doesn't trust that enough Armenians have given up on reclaiming Karabakh unless they change the reference to this in their constitution or declaration of independence that's in the constitution. And I also see that many Armenians don't trust that such a change will be reciprocated with concrete gains. I think that Armenia is feeling vulnerable economically and security-wise, and the more it seeks support from the West because of this, the more it deepens Baku's distrust. So there's a sense of a vicious cycle that we're facing. Given how far the peace process has come, and if this is the last unresolved issue, I think a lot of observers are worrying that a stalling over this is going to risk the window of opportunity closing because of the geopolitical shifts and some domestic dissatisfaction that we see building in Armenia as well. So all we really need to ask is whether we might look back and say, had we moved ahead then, we might have had lasting peace versus unraveling. So I guess my question to Azerbaijan is that if this constitutional change can only realistically happen in 2027, which is some of the debates are saying so, then are there interim steps or creative workarounds that can be taken to keep the momentum alive, particularly regarding connectivity, because the connectivity talks have stalled ever since Russia got engaged more in Ukraine, whereas the continuation of progress of that track of talks could actually continue in parallel about the railways and the highways and whatnot. I also would like to sort of note here that, of course, aspirations are not eliminated by clauses in legal declarations. They might actually fade more likely through normalization and integration, though there's no guarantee for that either. And I guess my question to Yerevan, to the Minister of Armenia, is that given how fragile the trust is, are there ways that the Armenian leadership could reassure its counterparts in Baku that Armenia's current path is irreversible, even if political winds at home change or political winds in the region change? I think there's a sense of fragility that I pick up as such in Baku that is grounded, I guess, in past experiences. I think the irony today, and I'm going to close with this, is that if Armenia doesn't feel secure or doesn't have an economic lifeline because of its borders being closed, then it becomes more vulnerable to external manipulation, which is exactly the outcome that Azerbaijan seeks to avoid. And of course, it's a risk to Turkey's potential role for stabilizing and developing the Caucasus region as well. And I also would like to note that it's naive to believe that trade and connectivity can neutralize revanchism, but neither can isolation reduce it. So I think we're left with no wonderful answers, perhaps, but some food for thought, perhaps, that can be taken up in the rounds to go.
Minister Mirzoyan, would you like to respond?
Well, that was an interesting contribution. Thank you. Of course, I can agree with some of the approaches and considerations and disagree with the others. But in one specific part, you were very precise. The Armenian society feels vulnerable indeed in terms of security first, but also in terms of economic cooperation or closed borders. An ordinary citizen of Republic of Armenia can hear several assurances from the government of Republic of Armenia in the same day, assurances regarding the peace agenda, assurances and proposals to build peace with the neighbors, to open the borders, to turn the page of enmity in the region, to open a new era. And we all remember that there are still very sensitive issues. The wounds are very fresh, and it's difficult to speak about possible cooperation. But an ordinary citizen of Republic of Armenia can hear or watch in his or her newsfeed, in his or her daily life, many assurances about this. At the same time, an ordinary citizen of Republic of Armenia, in the very same day, can hear several threats, including threats to, again, to use the force, including threats not to acknowledge the territorial integrity, including threats which contain some claims on internationally recognized territorial integrity of Republic of Armenia from the Azerbaijani side. I don't know, on the level of member of a parliament, on the level of the media outlet strongly affiliated with the government, on the level of high officials. So there is this threat in the air. There is a choice for us, for our Azerbaijani friends, for our Georgian friends, for our Turkish friends. There is a choice to wait for another 100 or 200 years to see that the changes are irreversible, or to start a process of putting a brick and then another brick and then another brick, and in this way building a peaceful region here. Establish cooperation, I don't know, energy projects, transit projects. You touched upon the topic of the connectivity. I can also elaborate a little bit more on that. Internet cables, I don't know, tourism. There are so many ways of cooperation. And I believe Georgia can lead the region here. We can connect the two societies. Not only, I mean, the two societies of Armenia and Azerbaijan, but Georgia, but Turkey. We live in the 21st century. Again, it's a matter, and my hope is that I'm expressing this idea precisely. It's a matter of choice. You can wait for another 200 years, or you can start putting bricks and building a solid wall. We choose cooperation. But we cannot cooperate with ourselves. There should be another neighbor on the other side willing to cooperate with us as well. For instance, not to sound too, I don't know, idealistic and avoiding concrete details. I will bring an example. We just made a proposal to Azerbaijan regarding connectivity, according to which they gain access to our railway infrastructure. We gain access to their regional railway infrastructure. We understand that there is 45 kilometers in the south of Armenia, which is possibly, obviously, the shortest way to connect two parts of Azerbaijan. And we suggested to use, I don't know, modern technologies there, electronic scanners, which will allow us to avoid physical check of the goods, of the cargo, to use electronic declarations which can be sent, information which could be exchanged between respective agencies, again, allowing us to have this transit at its maximum possible speed, etc., etc. We made a very concrete proposal, no positive answer. Probably they have their grounded concerns, I don't know, but it's a matter of choice. Thank you.
Okay. I'll ask Minister Bayramov to respond to that. Any response to what this minister has said?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for your analysis. And then you raised the topic and the issue of connectivity, what can be done at this stage. And I can confirm that this is the long-standing position and the elements of the foreign policy of Azerbaijan is the best way to promote the security and well-being. This is good relations with your neighbors. And of course, economic integration. I mean, from this perspective, not only transport connectivity, transit, but also energy project, electricity cables, etc. So this is something which makes you interdependent in a good sense with your neighboring countries. And this is not only, let's say, the policy as a whole. This is something which has been successfully implemented by Azerbaijan with all neighboring countries. When we talk about East-West Middle Corridor, what, for instance, Azerbaijan, Georgia, together with Turkey did, this is not something which changed the region. This is not something which was very positive for the well-being of our people and societies. This is something which changed the whole map of the region, the major oil, gas, pipeline, east-west transportation corridor. The most recent example, this is of course implementation of Southern Gas Corridor. The second stage, with the finalization of which the number of countries which became the recipients of Azerbaijani gas from the Caspian Sea increased from 2 at the end of 2020 to 12 today, when on top of Georgia and Turkey, this is also 10 additional European countries. At the same time, we are quite actively expanding the north-south corridor, also with participation of Russian Federation and Iran. For all those years, due to the policy of Armenia was out from all these projects, because I think one cannot imagine that when you have this type of conflict and occupation of your territory, you will be in a, let's say, economic engagement with the country. And of course, from the recent developments, and that's why at the beginning I said that the new opportunities finally race with the end of the armed conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But we sincerely believe that the process should be, finalized in a proper way. So this is something which has the real ground, which has the legal value, and which is irreversible. My colleague mentioned, and when you hear Minister Mirzayan, this is really very nice statements, and we hear many, let's say, nice statements. Minister Mirzayan made a reference to the recent decision of the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Armenia, and Minister Mirzayan in his statements several times said a reference to several hundred years ago. I will not be making reference to the several hundred years. I will make, several references to something which happened only after November 2020, which is the end of the Second Karabakh War. Mr. Mirzayan did not mention that when we talk about the importance and seriousness of this territorial claim in Armenian constitution, this is not something hypothetical. Based on this narrative, after November 2020, between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, there are many international disputes in International Court of Justice, in international arbitration bodies, etc. There are a bunch of documents where recently, in 2021, in 2022, in 2024, the Republic of Armenia continues to submit the document which, based on the same narrative which exists in the Armenian constitution, put under question territorial integrity and sovereignty of Azerbaijan. So this is the recent document. Of course, the statements, they are all good and nice, but there are more important stuff. And when Minister Mirzayan mentions about, some of the threats from the member of, parliaments of some NGOs, of course, in ideal world, of course, it's better, to have only the nice statements, but I believe that the more important, position representing the state should be taken into account and should be eliminated if we seriously talk about the finalization of this process, coming to the logical end, and after this, it will really open many additional opportunities for the whole region in a, let's say, holistic way. About the transportation, and Mr. Minister mentioned about some recent proposal from the Republic of Armenia with regard to the opening of the transportation tools. I just wanted to mention a couple of facts. The first, the opening of communication between Republic of, between us. It was proposal of Azerbaijan to be included in the trilateral declaration of November 2020. There is general statement about opening of communication between two countries, and there's a very specific reference about the unimpeded access from the western borders of Azerbaijan with its Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic. So because in Azerbaijan we have a unique situation, and the unique situation is that we have two parts of the country which are, separated from each other. And there are all around 40 kilometers of the, let's say, territory of Armenia. This railroad existed back in Soviet time. This railroad, by the way, back in Soviet time, was the part of the Azerbaijan Republic railroad system, because it was, the very short part, which was, managed by the Azerbaijani railroad system. During the negotiations in January 2021, until, the active phase was until 2023, then there was, some gap in the negotiations. We did many, let's say, proposals in order to resolve this situation. We agreed to separate highway part from the railroad in order to, let's say, to put on the second stage the more, let's say, complicated part for the Republic of Armenia. But notwithstanding, every time we saw some of the proposals which, from our perspective, and based on the previous agreement which we have in 2020, put under question, let's say, the reliability and stability of this agreement. We do not want to be in the situation when we agree about something, and in 1-2 year period of time, due to some, I don't know, changes in Armenian legislation, due to some, I don't know, changes in Armenian power, we will face the same situation which we faced, 30 years ago when the conflict started, and Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic become a hostage of this situation. That's why, so when we talk about from Azerbaijan to Azerbaijan, for us this is absolutely crucial, that this is unimpeded access with all the necessary guarantees that this situation is irreversible and it does not depend on the, political or, I don't know, legal changes in Armenia.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Nigar Göksel, for that. We are running out of time, but I would like to get one last perspective from Minister Botorishvili. The issue of shifting global alliances was mentioned. That is evident in the South Caucasus. We're seeing the West retreat somewhat from trying to influence affairs in the South Caucasus. We know the 3+3 dialogue being spearheaded by Russia and Turkey has been looking to fill that void. This is the dialogue involving the countries on the stage here as well as the biggest neighbors of Iran, Turkey and Russia. Under the previous administration in Georgia, they had refused to become involved in the 3+3. Might you reconsider that stance and joining?
I would refer to that format 3+2 because Georgia is not part of that format, but it is that's always referred as 3+3. Georgia is not part of this format, and we cooperate with all the neighbors except of Russia, and it has reason because Georgia's 2 regions remain occupied by Russian Federation, and we still have unaccepted military presence on these 2 regions, in these 2 regions from Russian Federation. So this is the reason where we cannot and we are not considering to be part of this format. We have only one format with Russian Federation. This is Geneva International Discussions, where Georgia and Russia are talking to each other over the conflict, and there are United States, United Nations, OSCE, European Union represented in that format, and this is a very valuable format for us that allows us to discuss conflict-related issues. Otherwise, when we talk about region and regional cooperation, we have excellent cooperation with our other neighbors, with Armenia, with Azerbaijan, with Turkey, and we have excellent examples of that good cooperation. With Turkey, with Azerbaijan, we have implemented a number of important projects throughout decades that are very important for a small region, but they are also very important for wider region. And when we're talking about kind of diversity also in the region, we have plenty of opportunities in that diversity. Like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, maybe we are different in many terms, but we have to find, especially when it comes, for example, foreign policy priorities. For decades, Georgia is pursuing European integration path. We want to be part of the European Union. That allowed Georgia to bring into Georgian legislation more European standards and align more with European economic area. That is also an asset that could be beneficial for whole region, and we are ready for cooperation with our neighbors in that terms as well, and to contribute to more regional cooperation and regional projects. But this is not the format of 3+3.
It's good to get that clarification. I'm afraid that does bring us to the end of this discussion. Can we please thank our distinguished guests, Ararat Mirzoyan, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Armenia, Ceyhun Bayramov, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Azerbaijan, and Mako Botorishvili, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Georgia. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you.